We have just arrived at our destination for the next 2 nights,
Yes.
Willow Flat Campground. Where are we?
Canyonlands
That's right.
National Park.
Yeah, and this is an interesting national park, in that for overlanders, this is one of the only national parks where they have backcountry camping
That
or
we've known
wild
so
camping. That we know of at all. We chose not to do that because of some of the weather. The road that would be on is it's really muddy and rutted
And you can see
still
the
icy.
snow.
Yeah, we just didn't want to do that. So this Willow Flat Campground is a first come, first serve. So we have got here a little bit early. We've staked our claim to a campsite for the next 2 nights. So now we have about a half a day left to go out and do a little bit of exploring, maybe a little bit of hiking. So let's do it.
Our first day at the park was a bit dreary with lots of cloud cover, but that didn't keep us from making the most of the day. We began at Upheaval Dome, which was a suggestion made by a park officer at the visitor center we stopped at on our way into the park. The out and back loop of just under 1.5 miles is fairly moderate, although you should expect slick conditions if visiting in winter like we did. The first overlook is mostly of the crater itself, which contains some very uniquely colored dirt and rocks for the area. The second also overlooks the crater, but adds an amazing 360-degree vista view of the park and valley below. Once back to the truck, we decided to be a little off script in our exploration and check out the pull-offs and trails from them to see where they led. We not only found amazing views, but Jay paused several times to take some photos.
What are you doing?
I'm making magic.
Okay.
I'm not sure that's the way back, but okay, I love your confidence. I believe in you.
With the afternoon sun getting lower and warmer, we started looking for a sunset location. Buck Canyon Overlook seemed to be a good place to start with its views toward the snow-capped LaSalle Mountains. When Jay noticed most of the valley would be in shadow, he wanted to move a bit further south to Grand View Point, where he hoped the side light could be more dominant in an image. Unfortunately, neither the light nor sky played along with our plans, so we headed back to camp. Well,
good morning. Yesterday ended up being a a lot more than we expected to cover. We were feeling a bit more run down than usual, so we wanted to keep most of yesterday just to driving around and taking short walks. That being said, we still covered like 17,000 steps. So when we finally got back to camp and made some dinner, we were just really tuckered. We went to bed and we had decided, hey, let's not get up super early for sunrise. Let's just sleep and wake up whenever we wake up. Turns out, I woke up, I'm gonna just miss sunrise. It's actually getting ready to happen now. I'm waiting for Alana to come down to this beautiful view right behind our campsite. So we're just gonna stand here and kind of watch the sunrise and enjoy it. And then we're gonna take on some bigger hikes today. It'll be pretty interesting. We have been down in the 20s to teens almost every night along this trip, but last night we also had wind gusts to 45 miles an hour, which is another reason I'm down in just a little bit of a cove trying to block some wind. Hopefully you can hear me. Today's wind is supposed to stay with gusts between 25 and 40. So we'll see what we get into and what hikes we do. Here we go. There she is. Ready, baby?
You say so.
Let's do this.
Rather than multiple short to mid-length hikes, we opted for one longer one, Murphy Loop. While this was a single hike, it still felt like many as there were noticeable transitions in the views, geology, and, of course, elevation. From the parking lot, the hike begins through a prairie and passes along what looked like an abandoned homestead. As the higher elevation prairie ends, views of the canyon and washes indicate the next transition. No matter what direction you hike the loop, the steep and winding trail to and from the canyon remains the same. It was time for us to make the descent of over 1,600 feet into the canyon, which is made within a very short distance. As you can imagine, this is done with a series of switchbacks that offer splendid views at every turn. Once down, we opted to make a left toward White Rim Road along the wash. Initially, this path has some larger rocks with some light scrambling, then transitions into gravel and even some sand as you make your way to lower elevation. The gorge walls, rock textures, and dry waterfalls are a lot to take in alone, but glances back where we had just come from left us nothing short of awestruck.
Okay, we are now at our lowest point. We have come 1,630 feet down, and we have now connected with, what's this, White Rim Trail Road, which is right here. And we actually, we go up this for about a mile before we connect off of Murphy Wash, which is what we walk down. And then we go up, I think it's Murphy's Hogback?
Murphy Hogback.
Yeah, so, woo! Wind's still with us. Now it's time to go 1,630 feet back up.
Typically, Jay and I aren't too excited when a trail has a section on or along a road, But frankly, we were all alone here, so it was more like being on a wide 2-track trail than on a road.
What you having for lunch?
PB on B.
PB on B, peanut butter on bagel. Well, there's better lunches, but I don't know that there's better places to have it.
An advantage of this loop direction is knocking out about 300 feet of the ascent as we worked toward a backcountry camping area. We must admit that it was at this point we regretted our decision to stay in the campground and not take advantage of the overlanding opportunities here. Shortly after the camping area, we left the road to rejoin Murphy Trail via Hogback. This section is a very flat and sandy stretch that we were thankful for. While amazing views were on our left and right for most of this stretch, it was hard to keep the upcoming steep ascent out of our heads as the climb out seemed to grow with every step we took. With 9 miles on us, we dropped some layers and rallied for the final push up and out. Even though we'd already done this section, the changing light and direction made it feel new. So much so, we had some trouble keeping track of the cairns and had to backtrack a few times, having gone off route in spite of the fact we were following the footsteps of prior hikers.
Well, today was an absolutely amazing day, but we are tuckered.
Yes.
Ended up with just over 11 miles
Yes.
and 1,650 feet of elevation gain.
Yes.
It was 31,000 steps for Alana, I
Yes.
think, right there about. So we're out of it. And anyway, we decided to go ahead and come back to camp
Yes.
and cook dinner, salmon and rice. Alana's making us some hot chocolate in the daylight rather than in the dark like we've been doing, especially since some clouds have now moved in. We just figured we'd skip sunset. Now that being said, we're hoping to get our lazy rear ends up for sunrise before
Yes.
heading into the Needles area tomorrow.
Before leaving the island in the sky area of the park, we chose Mesa Arch for our sunrise location. We were far from the only ones with this plan. As light grew, so did the number of people. Soon, the composition Jay was hoping for was no longer viable, and he moved to find another. We knew this location was a popular one, but we're still surprised to see the number of visitors given the midweek visit and below freezing temperatures. The transition from the northern and more popular section of the park to the southern Needles area may seem like a bit of a haul, but we found the 2-hour trip to be nothing short of stunning and one we would happily make again. After a quick stop at the visitor center, we headed for the Colorado River Overlook. To get there, you must hike, drive, mountain bike, or make a combination thereof for the 7-mile rugged road which leaves from the visitor center parking area. We found the road suitable for just about any high clearance vehicle, but 4x4 is required, and the further along you travel, the more you understand why. In fact, we transitioned to our feet for the last 3/4 mile. While our decision had more to do with time than anything else, this last section does warrant off-roading experience. The views here were nice, and we appreciated the change in activity, but in all honesty, this little route is more about doing something with your vehicle than anything else. If this is your thing, there are other off-road routes both in and just out of the park boundary. However, many require registration and/or a permit. Back on pavement, we focused on the shorter hikes and pull-offs. Both the roadside ruins and Pothole Point trails are just short little jaunts from the parking areas. The needles themselves are visible in the distance, but we were surprised that significant hiking, and more than we were up for, is required to get up close and personal with them.
It's like you're walking across the moon. Cave Spring Trail is just 0.6 of a mile, but was our favorite of the day. Beyond the historic cowboy camp and prehistoric pictographs, the trail immerses you into the landscape well and includes 2 small ladders we found unique for a trail of this length. There is a lot to take in here, so be sure to allot much more time than this distance would typically need. there it is, Canyonlands, all wrapped up. At least Island in the Sky.
Yes.
And the Needles area, and for us. We've got to hustle, refill our refrigerator, get some food set again, and then we are off to, what is it, Dead Horse Point State Park.
Yep.
We're there for 2 nights. We're really only spending 1 day before we move on. We hope to see you there next week.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye.